You are as good as you are. You're wonderful right where you are. And if you realize that you can help someone and there's someone that really needs your product, your service, your whatever it is, that's really half the battle.
Welcome to Daily Power Boost, Ignite Your Potential, the podcast where your transformation begins. I'm Sean Michael, and each day I'll bring you quick, impactful insights and action steps to fuel your personal and professional growth. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone ready to break limits and ignite greatness, this is your Daily Power Boost to crush obstacles, stay focused, and awaken the extraordinary potential within you. Because remember, greatness begins within. Let's go. Hey everyone, it's Sean Michael here. Welcome back to Daily Power Boost. I'm excited to announce my special guest today, Joelene Wolfe, an e-commerce advisor, writer, and motivator who blends marketing expertise with contagious energy. She recently launched the eBuzz community to help e-commerce leaders grow, connect, and stay inspired. And she's passionate about helping people break through limiting beliefs, tap into their inner guide, and show up fearlessly in business and life.
Yes.
And she gave me this tagline, buzz.community, where e-commerce connections take flight. Welcome, Jolie.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I guess a good opening question for you is, what inspired you? Because it said recently launched the community. What inspired you to launch that?
I've worked with e-commerce brands for years, and I kept kind of hearing the same thing, especially from solopreneurs, which is, I really don't have anyone to, anywhere to go. I don't know where to connect with people. I'm in all these different places, but it's really not personal, right? It's just a lot of buzz going on out there, and I don't really get to know people as people. So it was kind of chirping back here in my head, and I'm like, you know what? I have to start this because it's really something that's needed, and I've heard it. And I felt it myself, and I figured, why not?
Why not? You don't know if you don't try, right?
Really, at 100%.
And how's it been going so far?
It's good. We're in soft launch mode, so there's a lot of kind of noodling, trying to figure things out and get feedback. But it's going well. It's a lot of fun.
And I totally get that, because since that's where I met you, was in the community building community.
Community for a community.
Yes. And I'm also a newer community, I know all about trying to get everything connected and set up. There's a lot of backstory that goes on there.
100%.
All right. So in your intro was the topic about helping e-commerce leaders break through limiting beliefs. What would you say are some of the most common mindset blocks you've seen, and how have you helped them overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the community goes, we're just getting started there. But in the past, I've worked with, hundreds of brands through partnerships and clients and whatnot. And multiple things that I see every day are things like imposter syndrome, fear of growth, a lot of procrastination, and should I or shouldn't I? And just like negativity when it comes to things like sales and whatnot. So I've faced it. I've experienced a lot of these things myself, but I'll give you like a perfect example on how these things can really be different and how they affect business. So, having worked with all kinds of people, there's all different kind of personalities out there, and there's all different ways that people address life, but in business too. So perfect example, I had one client who super upbeat, happy. She's just great attitude, like it really inspirational for someone, whether you're in business or not. And she, the type of person who doesn't take no for an answer, failure is not an option, but if things do happen, right, anything negative, she moves on, no harm, no foul. I know another person who's a client as well, who is more of kind of stereotypical negative sort of Nelly, right? We're like glass half empty, blames every external circumstance, whether it be the world, the economy, the supply chain, whatever. And her world, though, she doesn't have as many sales. She's kind of lagging behind a little bit. And there's like super evident when you see people and their outlook on their business, how it literally affects, right? It's like this domino effect of positive person, negative person, and kind of the where sales and business fall in. Not to say that, right, if you have a bad day and you have a negative mindset, that's gonna just tank everything. But there are the kinds of things that I encounter on a daily basis and try. It's weird because with business, there's a really fine line. You can't be like, well, you're a negative Nelly, but there's a fine line of saying, hey, what if you thought of it this way? Or what if, we tackled it from this angle? So it's interesting, from a business perspective versus it being like a friend or a family member that you can kind of shake them a little bit. Interesting concept, but
Yes. And you made a very good point as you were sharing there. And it's actually one of the lines I have in my daily boosts. And I'm trying to find it because I have it in my head, but I don't have it memorized. It's about how you show up for yourself is how you show up everywhere.
yes.
Whether it's business or family or any of it, we think we've got these different personas that we can be my business persona. And you do a pretty good job playing the part, but at the core, it shines through, right? That core stuff comes through.
Yes, it does.
All right. And how has your own mindset evolved on this journey as writer, advisor, community leader?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always been, I've always been a glass half full kind of person. That's just who I am. And but like I said, not everyone has the best days in the world in life. There's ups and downs, and you kind of have to learn to navigate that. And actually, ironically, being a more positive person, I think you have lows sometimes that are lower than most because you're not in the middle. You're falling from up here down here, right? So I had to learn how to navigate that. And that for me personally, it's things like meditation, energy work, all that kind of stuff to get myself in a more normalized place when those things happen. So it's a really huge part of my life. And it's why I really like helping people because I can see what a huge difference it can make.
Right. Well, and I totally agree with the use of tools like meditation and physical activity. I know for myself, just having the discipline, like I used to say at one point in my life, I don't like exercise. I don't have time for reading. But to actually like just say, okay, you know what? I'm putting this on my schedule. Every morning at 5:30 in the morning, I'm putting my clothes on, I'm putting my shoes, and I'm walking out the door.
Yeah.
As long as it's not raining, because I do live in the tropics. So when it rains, it rains. But other than that, barring rain, I'm not the mail service. I was out I go out walking every day. And that time of moving and being out in nature has really, like you said, when you're riding high so much, it's a bigger fall. It's like I told my son, it's like when I fall, I'm falling from almost 6 feet tall. I said, you're falling from like 3.5. It doesn't hurt as much.
Very true.
But I think using these tools and honing our mindset, it helps us build that resilience.
Yeah.
So that even though we do fall maybe deeper than others, because we are usually riding high, we are able to bounce back more quickly and more easily.
Yes, exactly. I'm a huge proponent in being outdoors too. It does help.
Yeah, I just recently had a hit happen, where I fell way down. And it's like, what am I doing down here? And I was also amazed because of using the tools of, like you said, meditation, other techniques. I was
Yeah.
able to bounce back much more quickly than I would have in the past.
Yeah. We all have days. I had one of those the other day for sure.
All right. So you mentioned this, that imposter monster, that
Mhm.
fear of failure, right?
Yes.
It holds, like, the normal response is it holds many people back in business. I would
Mhm.
say it holds people back from having the life that they really want,
Yep.
right? Whether it's, business choices or even launching a business or making an investment or any of that. How do you personally navigate fear? And what advice do you give others who are facing down that imposter monster?
Yeah, there's a lot of tools for that, but I would say like imposter syndrome wise in business, it's huge, right? And especially like I work with a lot of solopreneurs. So here you have this person who is taking a risk and going out and starting a business, whether they sell a product, service, whatever. And it's hard because you're trying to talk yourself into the fact that you're this person, but now you're trying to actually tell other people that you're this person that you're not even sure that you are. So it's hard, fear is one of those things that I mean we all face at some point. And one of the well, a couple things. Imposter syndrome wise, no one's ever perfect, right? And the thing that I tell myself and I tell other people too, you're always a step ahead in something that you can teach someone else. So you might not be the smartest kid in the class. You might not know everything there is to know, but you know enough more than someone else to give them a lesson, right? To teach them, to help them. You don't have to be perfect. You actually don't have to have all the answers. Thus, the whole community thing. I don't have all the answers, but I want to bring people together to help each other with those questions and answers and things like that. So, from an imposter syndrome perspective, it's just really about reframing how you think about what you know. You are as good as you are. You're wonderful right where you are. And if you realize that you can help someone and there's someone that really needs your product, your service, your whatever it is, that's really half the battle. From a fear perspective, I mean, we've all been paralyzed by fear. And one of the tools that I've done and I've, taught people to do is to write a letter to fear. I've done this in the past and I can go back and read those letters and actually get tears in my eyes because if you're like fear, look, I'm pissed at you. I can't believe you're holding me back from all these things that I really want in my life and just really lay it all on the line. It's amazing when you write things down, how impactful it is to get it off your chest.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, but like writing just like a scathing letter to fear, like get out of my way. I'm tired of being your slave, whatever. It's so cathartic. And it really helps. So I always kind of lead with that when people are afraid of something.
Yeah. Well, as you said, writing in a journal, just getting it down and it helps so much. It's so cathartic. It's so good at helping us process.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple tool. It's something
There.
you don't need an app. You don't need
You don't need
a
anything.
piece of paper and a writing instrument. I think most
Exactly.
of us have that around. And like you said, call out the doubt, call out the fear. I've even actually vocalized it, like, off, dude.
Yes,
You're not
exactly.
welcome here.
Exactly. Yes.
You're a
Cursing.
liar. You're a liar.
Exactly.
Because as you said, each of us has our skills, our talents, our experiences that puts us a step ahead of somebody, and they're just waiting for somebody to help them advance the step. And I don't know if you ever seen the learning pyramid.
I'm not sure.
So they draw a pyramid and it talks about all the ways that we bring in information. And at the top of the pyramid, at the narrowest point, was hearing it like a lecture.
Mhm.
And it says we have about 5% retention. And it goes down through like reading it and listening raises it, actually doing something that raises it.
Mhm.
But the point is the bottom rung where it's the 90% teaching someone else. It's like the max way to lock in the knowledge.
Mhm. That's very true.
Um, and I also appreciated because it tied into the episode I just recorded yesterday of you're launching out on this new thing, that unknown. Like that's really what fear's about. It's the unknown. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it will. What if it doesn't? Yeah, what if?
Exactly. It's so funny. I was just thinking the whole what if thing. Yes.
What if?
To
Like
start me so that
80% of what we what if on never happens.
that is very true.
It's been studied. And anyway, so you're dealing with the imposter monster internally, those voices in our head, those
Mhm.
old, the teacher, the parent, whatever, put in our head. And then you've got family members like, are you crazy? Just get a, I don't even
Yeah.
just say this, get a real job.
I've heard it myself. Yes.
And the episode was Visions Villains that I just did. And it was about all those helpers around us.
Yeah.
Their intention, they want to help us, they want to protect us. They're misguided. And the episode was about how do we, it's my vision, take control of it and take the steps necessary. And whatever way it turns out, I several years ago, I win or lose, that's not in my vocabulary. There is no win
Mhm.
or lose. It's win or learn,
Mhm. Oh, yes.
right? If I don't win, then I start asking my question, okay, what could I have done different? What did I learn?
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, the imposter syndrome, the doubt is rampant and it affects everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new business owner or if you've been doing it for 20 years and you're the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
Everybody faces it.
Right. It's just how
One of the
they deal with it.
right.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that I've actually been working on what I call the real mastery system, which it's reframe your identity because that's the root. We got to reframe our identity. You said
Mhm.
that too. You said reframe. Embody your strengths. What are your strengths? You have strengths. We all have strengths. A is, I forget. I've been so lately. Anyway, so each one, it's embody strengths. Oh, align with your purpose,
Mhm.
align with your values, right? You might have a successful business, but if it doesn't align with what we really want, we're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
All right.
True.
Talk to me about the inner guide.
Oh gosh, I could talk to you about this forever. So I am a huge proponent of listening to your intuition. And it's something from the time I was very young. I have a very active intuition. I've learned to listen to it. I'm quite scary with my intuition. And anyone that knows me, if you pop into my head, I have a dream about you, there's a reason. And I freak people out on a daily basis. My family knows very, very well about my intuition. But even for people that don't have, a super strong intuition, it's there and it comes at you in many different ways, whether it be a feeling or a, hesitation. And I always, whether they're clients, friends, family, I always tell them, listen, there's a reason you're getting that feeling in the pit of your stomach. There's a reason this idea popped into your head. It could be, a positive or a negative, but you kind of have to learn how to truly tune in
Mhm.
and listen. And that inner guide will never steer you wrong. As soon as you have the ear open and listening to it, you'll start to realize that the inner guide is truly directing you to your passion. It's truly directing you to what's right. I have something in my life now that I'm grappling with a change, and I know what the direction is. And it's kind of like getting out of your own way and listening. So that's one piece of it. The other is kind of letting go, right? So like you're always worried about doing, going, but sometimes you just have to stop, listen, and let go, and kind of so you can hear whatever that message is, the messaging is.
Mhm.
I'm a huge proponent of intuition.
Right. Well, and I think like you said, some people are blessed and open. They have a very active intuition. I was, as you were sharing that, I was thinking automatically you're a woman, and everybody knows women are more connected to their intuition than men generally are. So if your wife or a woman in your life has an intuition, listen, because she's probably
Exactly.
tuned in. But there's two factors. One, like you said, you got to tune in. I think, as you were sharing, I think the other thing is you have to tune in the intuition and tune out the inner critic,
Yes.
right? Get him or her to shut up.
Mhm.
And if we face him or her enough, he will. He's like, okay, they're not listening to me. So we can tune in. The other thing is we have to give ourselves space, right? We have to give ourselves space in the quiet so that we can hear. And that's not easy in the days and age.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Gotten,
And I'm one of those people where I really don't watch the news. Like I am one of those people because I feel like with intuition comes empathy. A lot of times people are empaths that are, have a strong intuition. And like I don't watch the news. I definitely take on all of that, which then becomes noise and you can't hear the inside. So yeah, that's another thing to consider is definitely shutting out the noise. I really don't go on social media. I mean, I have to do it for work and whatnot, but I try to really temper those all that noise.
right. And I'm exactly the same way. I discovered several years ago that I always knew I had that high empathy. Turns out I'm actually HSP. I shut news off long ago because
Yep.
I don't need that. I'm not going to feed my brain with that, because the truth is news today it's clickbait.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way I can say it. It's
Very
designed
true.
to get viewers. It's not
Yeah.
designed to tell the truth and tell the real story.
Yep.
I remember an old line from journalism: if it bleeds, it leads.
True.
Right? The human brain locks on to negative very easily. So yeah, social media, I stay away from that. And my wife, she's on her social media and she's like sharing about another bus accident. We live in Guatemala where the buses,
No.
I won't get on them. They're
Gosh.
scary. They are scary. I mean, there's one city, Jolene, it's these steep, curvy roads through the mountains. And instead of slowing down, they took the brake fluid out and put Freon in to cool the brakes.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh,
Walking.
I'm walking, I'm driving myself, and I'm going to drive a tank.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. I hear you.
All right. So, in your experience, what separates a business owner who thrives from those who stay stuck?
Yeah, I mean, definitely right mindset in general. It for sure. There's a lot of fear in getting through that. I find that, a lot of business owners that are successful kind of do the fake it till you make it. And it's not in a bad way. It's they believe, right? Like with visualization and whatnot, you have to see yourself in a certain position that you want to be in, and you have to feel it. That's what brings it on, right? The very basic law of attraction stuff. So that fake it until you make it, without them even knowing, they're manifesting all that stuff into their life in a good way. So that's one thing that I think a lot of business owners who are successful do without probably even knowing it, some of them.
Right.
Another is not procrastinating and not waiting until things are perfect. And this is something I struggle with, that I am a perfectionist. I will say, like, I like when things are good, but that's not great when you're trying to grow something, because things are perfect. They just aren't. So, successful people, I mean, I've worked with many entrepreneurs through the years. That I worked for one in particular, and he was hysterical. We'd be in a meeting, and it was a service-based business. Be in a meeting, and there'd be like a client, for example, and they'll be like, yeah, I want to create this thing. And this thing didn't exist yet. And he'd be like, yep, we got that. And, some of us would be in the room looking around like, no, we don't. What are you talking about? But he would literally promise, yes, we do that. We have that. We'd leave the meeting and be like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, let's go make it. Like, it's a different mindset, and it's saying yes and no fear and not procrastinating, just doing it. And that's where they're successful. And the people who hesitate and procrastinate and all that stuff don't get far at all.
Right. And, you mentioned law of attraction and the fake it till you make it. I have an updated version I use. Be it till you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Because it's not necessarily about faking it. It's living as if it is already true, that it's already happened. Because, and I just finished reading a really good book because a lot of people, they hear law of attraction and they think The Secret and they think this woo woo. James Doty's Mind Magic. He's a neurosurgeon and neuroscientist. So he's not approaching it from this woo woo. He's bringing the reality of it. This is something, the way our brains actually work. If you operate in that, I am an amazing husband, I am a successful podcaster, I am a powerful business owner, your brain goes, wait a minute, that's not true right now. And so it goes, how do we fix it?
Right.
How do we change it? And it can unlock, like you said, taking that imperfect action. Stop procrastinating, stop trying to make it perfect. Look, if this was a PA meeting, I'd be raising my hand. Hi, I'm Sean Michael. I'm a recovering perfectionist. For having me. Been there, done that. In fact, I went through a little dip this past week, and I recorded an episode, and I was crying in the episode. And I sent it to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know if I should publish this. Like, I'm crying. Like, I'm like, she's like, post it. Post it. It's real. It's raw. It's authentic,
Exactly.
And somebody needs to hear it. Like you said, if you have the feeling, if you have that thought, there's usually something behind it if we just listen and take that step. And just like the pilot has to make little corrections, otherwise, I heard how far off they get if they don't.
Right.
It's insane. Like a tiny little misguide by like half a degree, and they're going to New York and they land in DC or something like that. It's insane.
Exactly. Well, it's funny too, because you before were saying the I will thing, and I kind of had a different take on that. But the I am. So when I talk to people, I'm like, well, envision yourself. You have to see the end game. Some people just can't get there because they're so set in their negativity or their ways, or they don't believe it. So in meeting them halfway, right? If you can't say, I am a successful business, whatever it is, it's kind of like, okay, well, there's a midway, which I use kind of like the what if. What if I started to see my worth? What if I got that raise? What if this year was better than last year? Right. So it's like, it's a little more believable than I am, maybe for some. And that's kind of like another tool where it's like, what if this happened, and then they start to get a little more comfortable with that. And then hopefully they can say, I am a successful business owner or whatever the end game is.
Right. Or another way that I was thinking of because you make a good point, because some people, they're just at the point they're at saying something like, I'm a successful business owner. Their body, their brain's going to reject it 100%. It's going to be like, you're nuts. What if I was able to build a successful business, or I am building a successful business? You can just add a simple, it's about words. And it sounds like you've been pretty positive your whole life. Because I'm wondering, thought about asking, like, how do you shift, or what's the experience? But if you've been positive all your life, how do you shift out of negative? That doesn't really apply.
Well, it does. I mean, I've had things in my life that were awful, right? I mean, I don't know, I just find, this is why I think I'm such a mindset person, in that, like, it really does change your whole outlook, right? And like, you can have the same person, you could have two different people experience the exact same thing and have two completely different versions of what happened, right? So even me, yes. Have I been a positive person most of my life? Yes. But again, when you do fall, you fall lower. So sometimes it is harder to get out of that slump. But I think it's more of believing, having faith that things will turn around regardless of your religion, right? Faith is a really big part of it. Leaning on people that will get you out of that slump or negativity, right? If you hang around with negative Nellies, you're going to get exactly that. Misery doesn't always love company, quite frankly. Sometimes it needs someone that's really, positive and upbeat. So that's another thing, to surround yourself with people as much as you can that are positive. And just, it's interesting when you have something going on in your life, nights are really hard and mornings always seem to be easier, right? So like that sunshine the next day, just knowing that tomorrow is going to be a better day, and just kind of hanging on to that carrot, I guess.
Right. As I've heard it, no matter how dark the night is,
yes,
the sun will rise again tomorrow.
Exactly. Yes. You said it way more eloquently than I said. Yes.
Well, that's kind of like one of my things. People tell me all the time, they're like, Sean, you have such a way with words.
That's awesome.
If you could, no, let me go back. So you blend marketing, motivation, mindset. How do you show up fearlessly in your business? And then how do you transfer that to the people you work with?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like, even though my community, for example, and again, it's just starting out, but I try to show up, right? I try to be there. I also try to go above and beyond, because again, I truly do like getting to know people as people. And that's kind of the underpinnings of the community. I don't want it to just be about a transaction. I want it to be people knowing that you have a son that's 7, and so-and-so has 2 kids here, and this one has a dog, and that one loves plants. Like, those are what makes us, that is what makes us who we are. It's not about the brand, the position, the amount of income. All that is nonsense. It's all about people. So I come into every day talking to people as people. I try to go above and beyond to help them because I care about them as people. It's not because I'm trying to get anything out of it. I just truly care about where they get and if they're getting something out of it and growing and whatnot. So I try at least to do that every day and show up. And I do loop in, even in the community, which is a business community, I do loop in the whole, I even have sections of courses and things like that called Mindset Matters, because it is a huge cornerstone of who I am, but it's also whether people know it or not, it's really important to their business as well.
Right, right. I was actually talking to a men's coach the other day. And like you said, it was not transactional. It was just two guys
Yeah.
chatting and getting to know each other and sharing ideas and, you know, honestly caring about each other. I would say having a child, being a dad, that that kid teaches me more than I will ever teach him,
Yeah.
straight up. But, you know, I've learned to like grab a hold of that childlike curiosity again, like to literally
Mhm.
people and want to know them just because I want to know them. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's not about, and the other thing is, as you said, when you're able to say something and they have some insight, there's a shift, whatever, that lights me up.
Same.
Totally lights me up, you know, like you understand this now.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
in the discussion, we were talking about that it's always mindset. It always comes back to our thoughts and our thought life. But like people don't realize it. And if you try to tell them that's the problem, they'll be like, no, no, my mindset's
Yeah.
fine.
Right.
But when you drill down through the layers, it always comes back to that,
Yes.
doesn't it?
It does. It truly
Really
does.
is the core. And, you know, like my approach is the self concept. Who do you think you are? Like, really, who do you think
Mhm.
you are? So, on that topic, Jolene, how do you stay authentic and aligned with your own values as you grow this business, this community, and your personal brand?
Hmm. That's a good question. Yeah. I try to be as authentic as I can. I am who I am. And quite frankly, if you don't like it, that's just too darn bad. But I really try to bring who I am and I don't sugarcoat it. I try not to put on airs. I don't really care. I was taught from a very young age that my dad was like an executive in a big company. And I remember him taking me to work. And he knew that there are thousands of people that work there. It's kind of crazy. It's a big, big building. And he knew everyone's name and everyone's story, whether you were an executive, whether you were cleaning the floors, whether you worked in the lunchroom. Hey, Bob, how are you? How's Joe? Like it was amazing to me. And I really instilled that into how I show up. Like I don't care what your title is. I don't care where you live. I just want to connect with you in a way that is authentic. So if you're looking for something different, then you're on your own. But that's something that I really try to bring into everything that I do, whether it be personal or business. And I think that's why I do have so many connections in a really authentic way. And that's something that is important to me. So I think, I don't know if I even answered your question, but I think it's really important for anyone, quite frankly, to be authentic. And I think that translates into business and what you do and how successful you are. Because if you're not authentic, I don't care if you're selling a pair of shoes or you have a plumbing business, if you're not an authentic person or whatever brand story, people are going to see that from a mile away.
Right.
And that
Not
translates into sales and
right.
yeah,
It's not sustainable. You might
right.
pull it off for a time, but
Exactly.
no, it
Exactly.
won't take long before the people go snake oil.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that like I really enjoy what I do. So I think if that wasn't the case, that would be very evident too. And I mean, we've all been in jobs. I've been in 1,000 jobs that I hated through the years, and I have a million articles I've written about that. But that shines through too when you're not happy. But when you're doing something that you really enjoy, that energy people feel immediately and are attracted to that. So
Totally 100% agree. Whether we want to admit it or not, it's all energy. It's all
yeah,
energy. And, you know, it's why you can meet someone and just instantly connect. And
yeah,
somebody else, you're like, no matter how hard you try, you're like, I can't connect to this person. Like,
yeah, and that's
what's
okay.
happening? And it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's really amazing, wonderful that you had such a great model as a young girl to see this in your father, to see that this real person who cared about everybody because they
mhm,
were a human being. Titles meant nothing, position meant nothing. It was, he's a human being, she's a human being, you
Mhm.
actually care. And yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny
I had to
because
learn that the hard way.
yeah, yeah, it's funny because if I interact with someone that's super ego driven or like, well, I have this title and I'm the head of this brand and you're this, and I just am completely turned off by that. Like that just, it just doesn't do it for me. And if it comes to, if it's say a potential client, I will actually just respectfully decline because it's just not my jam. Like it's just
Yeah.
not my thing. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
That reminds me of one of my mentors, virtual mentor. I've never actually met him in person. Um, he says when he's talking to a client, and this is for both sides, if it's not a hell yes,
Mhm.
it's a hell no,
Right.
right?
For sure.
And no, like you said, just like, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out.
Mhm. Yeah, that's where intuition comes in.
That's the intuition, being in touch
Yeah.
with cutting out the noise, being aware and open,
For sure.
feeling, seeing that your knowledge, your experience, it's not defined by anything outside of ourselves, right? Nobody has the right.
Right.
Even though I wrote a men's journal on self-worth, I don't use the term self-worth because who establishes that? Your worth. I can say how much an iPhone is worth because there's an established market for that. But you're a human being, right? You're worth limitless.
Right. Exactly.
And as you were telling this story about your dad and going to work with him and seeing the way he interacted with everybody and having this, if you like me, great. We can communicate, we can work together, whatever happens. If you don't like me, okay, that's
Mhm.
okay. In my book club, we're reading Nonviolent Communication. And recently there was a story about, the chapter opened with the story about a movie where this uncle was doing everything he could so that his nephew would know the value, the importance, the specialness of him,
Mhm.
right? And I think more of us need to know that you have specialness. You,
Yes.
you exist, so you have specialness. You have your experiences, your skills, your talents. And I realized as you were talking about community that I didn't mention the L in real. The L is leverage community,
Mhm.
right? Because it is about not only those who can lift us up when we need it,
Mhm.
but those that can press us on, push us up to the next tier.
Yes. Love that.
Is there any advice you would give your younger self if you could about personal growth, any of it?
Yeah, and I talked about this a lot through the years, but really, if you have a passion, if there's something you love, if there's something burning inside you, to go try it. Don't listen to the people around you. Just go and do it. It may flop, and that's fine, but you don't want to be 80 years old, look back and say, I never even tried.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I read something that, like the percentage of people who are in that position and look back and they have regret because they didn't do that thing that was
Yes.
in their heart.
Yes.
Like the number, when I saw the number, I was like,
Yeah. So there's a whole other podcast I could go into that whole other part of my life. But
definitely.
yes, I think that would be the advice. And that's for anyone that even has a business or whatever. If you want to try something, if you're in a dead end corporate job and you're like, oh my gosh, I am miserable, then go try it. Go do it. Go, even if it's part-time, even if it's, if you love to write, go put it out there. Whatever it is that lights you up, go do it. For
Yeah.
sure.
Don't don't let fear
Yes.
and perfectionism and procrastination and all of that lead you on the path to stand on the end of your life and look back and go, I wish.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to get to the end of my life and said, you know what? I lived a great life. I did a lot of amazing things. I touched a lot of people's lives, and I can finish this life and say, good job.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. As we wrap up, we're at the top of the hour. Got two last questions.
Yes, sir.
One belief shift or mindset hack that e-commerce leaders could implement today to get instant results or immediate results?
I don't know if it's immediate results, but one thing that I would say is to really incorporate whatever that mindset is, whatever you are into your messaging. So for example, if you sell shoes, for example, it's not that you're selling shoes. It's not why people are going to buy those shoes because the shoes are so pretty. People are going to buy those shoes because of you, who you are, what your brand is about, and what makes them special, not the thing itself. So, one thing that brands can do, and I was just writing about this today, is really evaluating their messaging and the why behind it, because that's what makes you different. So, really highlighting that. And that's something, it's all about connection and emotion. You don't buy things not out of emotion. You buy it because there's a connection, because it makes you feel better, whatever that is. So when you write messaging, write it from a point that explains who you are and tap into that emotion. So that would be the quickest way to.
Definitely. I was just talking about this with someone. Starbucks, their business is not about selling coffee.
Right.
Nike is not about selling shoes. Yes, they sell shoes, but that's not their focus. Apple is not selling technology. There's a deeper core, deeper purpose, and that's what has made them successful.
Yeah.
All right. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect with you or learn more about eBuzz community?
Yeah. So you can visit eBuzz community. It's ebuzz.community. That's the actual website. And it's a paid community with different levels that you can get in and kind of tool around and see what it's about. We typically have a couple-week trial that you can get in there. It's geared towards e-commerce leads, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of great brands. And really, it's just, like I said, to get to know each other as humans and lift each other up, but in that realm of e-commerce.
Very good. And I will definitely include that link both to eBuzz and links to connect with Joelene directly if you're interested. Thank you so much, Joelene. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
And I'm very grateful that you agreed to come and join me on Daily Power Boost, or actually Beyond the Boost, where we can dive in a little deeper.
Thank
you. All right, everyone.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
All right. That's today's Daily Power Boost, Beyond the Boost. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.